Thanks a lot. It's an honor to be here. I had a little thing I was going to read, but it's all been said. I want to thank the Joneses for all the hard work they did. I mean, it's one thing to come out and be part of the land and enjoy it, live it for your entire life. It's another thing to go to Tallahassee and fight legislators and fight opposition groups and coordinate with conservationists and hunters and fishermen, government agencies, occasionally take one of them to court like they did us one time for all good reasons, to force society to change. When you look around at all the natural area that's preserved here, you see the pine flatwoods and cypress domes, and wetlands, isolated wetlands. But right behind you is a canal. And that canal was dug to drain this area and to turn it into a housing development. That was years ago. Fortunately, it got stopped before it got connected to anything. So it no longer discharges to an ocean or doesn't discharge to a natural and scenic river. And in large part, the efforts of the Joneses and others stopped that development, and it's now in a position to be natural habitat. We're in the Water Management District. We have the good fortune, working with the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission and others, to manage these lands. And it's an absolute honor to manage a treasure like this. We've got a lot of land in Florida and South Florida, millions of acres that we're responsible for. But for the efforts of the Joneses to create funding programs like the Conservation Lands Program, P2000, and other acts, we wouldn't have Kissimmee River floodplain to restore. We wouldn't have the Holy Land Rotenberger management areas, Corbett Wildlife Management Area. We wouldn't have land for Picayune Strand, which is one of the first Everglades restoration projects that the Corps is working on right now. We wouldn't have a place to restore that. It would be a housing development. And of course, Big Cypress Preserve that Commissioner Bergeron mentioned. So again, it's an honor for us to manage these lands. This plaque is really a small tribute to a truly great couple who dedicated their lives to preserve areas that we enjoyed for centuries from now by thousands of people. I think this is fitting here because the people who will see this monument in the future are people who are going to come out here to experience it, to be part of the land. And I think that's the way the Joneses want it. That's the way they grew up. So I'd like to thank you personally for everything you've done, and it's an honor for us to manage the lands that you've made available. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you all. I can't say how big an honor it is for me to be here to recognize the Joneses, because the Joneses made things happen. And a lot of people had a lot of ideas, good ideas, but the Joneses made things happen. And I think it's interesting. I think there can be no better tribute to the Joneses than the number of people that have showed up today on this cool June morning to honor them. There's no better indication as far as I'm concerned. I go back quite a ways with the Joneses. I went to work for the commission in 1974, and my first contact with Johnny was at a public hunt meeting in Tampa about a month and a half after I went to work. And Johnny had come to criticize the commission about the management of the then recently acquired Three Lakes Wildlife Management Area. And it fell to me to respond, and it was unpleasant for both of us. But he never held that against me. And I admire the Joneses for a lot of reasons. Oh, by the way, Manley, I'm going to be brief. I admire them for a lot of reasons, but probably most of all was for their role in passage of the Conservation and Recreation Lands Bill. Success has 1,000 fathers, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that deserve credit on that, but nobody deserves more credit for that 4.8 million acres of land that have been set aside in this state for us and our children and our grandchildren. Nobody deserves more credit than Johnny and Mariana for that. And I hope you appreciate it. In his introductory comments, Jim credited me with this area being named for the Joneses. And I know why Mariana thinks that I'm responsible for it, because I wanted to do it. I thought there was no more fitting tribute to people who had done so much for the acquisition of public conservation and recreation lands than the Joneses. And nothing to me would be more fitting than to name an area after them. And I wanted to do that. And I talked to them and made sure they were all right with that. But I fell flat on my face. I ran into an issue on a game commission, then game commission staff, that there was a policy that we didn't name anything after live people. It had to be dead to get named after. And I got stopped dead in my tracks. Well, anything that the now Fish and Wildlife Commission and Game and Fish Commission does is determined, is done by action of the commissioners, and they make the decisions. And by the way, I've got to make a disclaimer: Game Commission didn't, Fish and Wildlife Commission isn't responsible for anything I say today. So don't blame them. If you're mad about it, just blame me. But after I fell flat on my face, one of the commissioners, and I believe it was Rodney Barreto, came forward to the executive director with the idea to name this area, or name an area for the Joneses. And at that point, I was directed to prepare the proclamation and supporting material, and boy, it got done quickly. But it really wasn't me. It was the commissioners, and it was probably really when you go back to it, what it was is the indisputable fact that the Joneses had done more for conservation in the state of Florida than anybody else ever. Amen. And so the rest is history. I'm proud to be here. I love you, Mariana, and I love what you and Johnny accomplished. And that's it. Thank you. I told you I'd be big.